When I walked into the emergency department that evening, I had no reason to expect the night would be any different than the hundreds of others I'd worked before. The fluorescent lights hummed faintly overhead, the steady chorus of monitors and phones filled the air, and the controlled chaos of the ER was already in full swing. Ambulances lined up outside, their sirens replaced with the hiss of oxygen tanks and the shuffle of paramedics wheeling patients through the doors. For me, it was just another 12-hour shift, another night of charting, triaging, and trying to balance empathy with efficiency. I had just finished admitting a middle-aged woman with chest pain and was typing notes into her chart when the automatic doors slid open and two paramedics rushed in with a man on a gurney. He was thrashing, cursing at them, one arm restrained because he kept reaching for the IV they'd started en route. His eyes darted wildly around the room, glassy but sharp, like a predator searching for prey. "This is Mr. Allen," one of the paramedics said breathlessly. "Found him in a parking lot. Altered mental status, possible intoxication, vitals unstable at first but coming around. He's combative. Could be drugs. Could be psych. We're not sure." I felt my pulse quicken. Combative patients weren't unusual, but there was something about his energy, an electric unpredictability, that made me wary from the start. We wheeled him into Bay 4. I tried to approach calmly, introducing myself the way I always did. "Mr. Allen, my name is Claire. I'm one of the nurses here. We're going to take care of you." "Don't touch me!" he snapped, jerking against the restraints. His voice was low and guttural, tinged with fury. His pupils were blown wide, his skin slick with sweat. The physician on call, Dr. Harris, stepped in, giving me a quick nod. "Let's get labs and tox screens. Fluids wide open." "Claire, can you monitor him closely? If he escalates further, we may need security." I nodded, slipping on gloves. I'd dealt with aggression before, and we had protocols. But as I tried to place the blood pressure cuff around his arm, he jerked again, glaring at me with a hatred so raw it stopped me cold. "You think you're better than me," he hissed. "All of you. But I know what you're doing." "What do you mean, Mr. Allen?" I kept my voice steady, measured. "We're just trying to figure out what's going on so we can help you feel better." He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You're all in on it, poisoning me, sticking me with your needles." "You want me dead," Dr. Harris murmured to the resident about possible psychosis. I noted every detail: paranoia, disorganized speech, agitation. But inside, I felt the knot in my stomach tighten. Patients in this state could flip from angry words to violence in seconds. For the next hour, I checked his vitals, documented everything, adjusted his fluids. Every time I came near, his eyes tracked me like I was an enemy. Once, when I reached to adjust his IV, he spat at me, barely missing my cheek. Another time, he tried to yank his restraints free, shouting obscenities loud enough that half the unit turned to look. We called security to stand by outside Bay 4, just in case. But eventually, his breathing slowed, his eyelids drooped, and it seemed the sedative the doctor ordered had finally taken effect. His body sagged into the mattress, and for the first time all night, the room felt a little calmer. I let myself breathe. It was just past midnight when the quiet shattered. I had been at the nurse's station updating a chart when I heard a crash, metal clanging against tile. A shout, then chaos. My head whipped toward Bay 4. Mr. Allen was on his feet, one restraint dangling from his wrist like a broken chain. His fourth pole lay tipped on the floor, saline pooling around it. "Shit," I muttered, sprinting toward the bay. Code Gray. Code Gray in Bay 4. My voice echoed through the department as I grabbed the doorframe. He was wild, eyes blazing, chest heaving. And then, in a heartbeat, he was on me. I barely had time to register the movement before his fist connected with my shoulder, sending me stumbling back into the wall. Pain radiated down my arm, white-hot and sharp. I gasped, trying to push him away, but he lunged again, his hands grasping for my throat. Instinct took over. I twisted sideways, using the wall to shield part of my body, and shouted, "Help! Security!" My voice cracked with urgency. He roared, shoving me hard against the wall, the back of my head striking plaster. Stars burst behind my eyes. He was stronger than I expected, fueled by whatever cocktail of chemicals was coursing through his veins. I clawed at his wrists, desperate to pry them off my neck. And then, suddenly, hands were pulling him off me. Security guards, 2 of them, muscling into the room, wrestling him back onto the bed. He thrashed violently, screaming incoherently, but they pinned him down long enough for Dr. Harris to order more sedation. The resident plunged the syringe into his IV line, and within seconds his body went slack again. I staggered back, chest heaving, hand pressed to my neck where his grip had left angry red marks. My shoulder throbbed, my head pounded, but I was standing. Barely. The whole ER buzzed with tension as the immediate danger passed. My colleagues crowded around me, checking for injuries, offering water, guiding me to a chair. My hands shook uncontrollably as I tried to process what had just happened. I'd been attacked before, scratched, kicked, shoved by confused or intoxicated patients. But this was different. This had been targeted, violent, intentional. His eyes when he lunged for me weren't the eyes of someone flailing in confusion. They were filled with rage, like he'd singled me out specifically as his enemy. Administration was called, incident reports filed, union reps notified. Security stayed glued to Bay 4 the rest of the night. Mr. Allen was eventually transferred to a psych facility once stable, his records flagging him as high risk. But the marks on my neck faded faster than the marks in my mind. In the days that followed, I replayed the moment over and over. The weight of his body slamming me against the wall, the crushing pressure on my throat, the helplessness of knowing that for those few terrifying seconds, my life was in his hands. I started flinching when patients raised their voices. My pulse spiked every time I heard the word combative on report. Even routine tasks, checking an IV, adjusting restraints, made my hands sweat. Colleagues told me I'd been brave, that I'd handled it well, that calling the code and holding my ground saved me. But bravery wasn't what I felt. I felt violated, unsafe in the place I'd always considered my second home. One night, a week later, I walked past Bay 4, now empty, the bed stripped, the lights off, and I froze in the doorway. My chest tightened, my breath caught, and for a moment I thought I could still smell him there, still hear his roar in my ears. I forced myself to step inside, to stand in the exact spot where it had happened. My reflection stared back at me in the dark window, pale and tired, but unbroken. I whispered to myself, "You're still here." He didn't win, and though the fear lingered, so did something else. Resolve. Resolve to keep showing up, to keep protecting my patients, and to keep demanding better safety for nurses like me. Because the truth is, what happened that night wasn't rare. Nurses everywhere face violence on the job, often brushed off as part of it, but it shouldn't be. We deserve to be safe, to go home without bruises or nightmares. I filed my report, spoke to administration, and joined a committee on workplace violence prevention. My voice trembled at first, but it grew stronger each time I told my story. Mr. Allen would live, just as I would. His demons weren't mine to fix. But I carried a scar from that night, not on my skin, but in my spirit. A reminder of how fragile the line is between caregiver and victim. And yet, every shift, I put my scrubs back on. I walk through those doors, past the humming lights and the ringing phones, into the chaos and the need. Because for every patient who lashes out, there are dozens who look at me with gratitude, with relief, with trust,